Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Doing well.
Thanks for joining us today.
Of course. My pleasure.
So my name is Tiffany Esposito. I am the CEO of the Bonita Springs Area Chamber of Commerce, and we are the Southwest Florida Alliance of Chambers. We really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today.
Thank you.
Before we get started, we'll go through and do some quick introductions so you know who's on the call. We are recording this call, and we are, now I sound like a telemarketer. We will be posting them on our websites and our social media in an effort to educate our businesses and our community on the candidates running for office. So thank you again. So we represent 6,000 businesses and over 300,000 residents in Lee and Collier County. And with that, we will go ahead into introduction. So Donna, John, Dave, Colleen, and we'll go in that order.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here with us. My name is Donna Germain. I'm the President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of Cape Coral.
Good morning, Christy. Thanks for joining us today. My name is John Lai, and I'm the President and CEO of the Sanibel Captiva Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, Christy. My name is David Miller, and I'm with the Chamber of Southwest Florida.
Good morning. My name is Colleen, and I'm with the Greater Fort Myers Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, this is Jenna Bazzacco Forrester. I'm Director of Government Relations at the Naples Chamber.
Jackie, Chris, and Michael.
Good morning.
Sorry, I can't tell who's next. Go ahead.
I'm Chris Lopez. I'm a member of many of the chambers here present, and I also consult with the Alliance of Chambers. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Christy. I'm Jackie Lezak. I'm the President, Executive Director of the Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce.
And good morning, I'm Michael Dolby. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Naples Chamber of Commerce.
Great. So Christy, we just have a few questions for you today. If you want to start off and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. So just to tell you about who I am, my name is Christy McLaughlin. I am the youngest person in the nation running for Congress in 2020, and I am the only woman candidate now in my primary. This is such a wonderful opportunity because it's an open seat to have a young woman representing the area to show that it's not about politics, it's about inclusivity and working towards America, and that it could be a young voice, it could be an older voice, it could be somebody of any vast background, and it's all about working towards the future of our country and focusing on the Constitution and using the Constitution as a guide for every piece of legislation. That said, I am a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer from Ave Maria. And I also graduated from Florida Gulf Coast University, and I received my teaching certificate, and I've taught 1st and 4th grade. I'm a lifelong resident of Southwest Florida. And, you know, I've lived in Naples my entire life, but I've volunteered in Cape Coral. I went to school in Fort Myers, and Southwest Florida is my home. And I'm proud to say that many of the people who I encounter every day on the campaign trail are people who have watched me grow up. So I only answer to 2 things, and that's the people of Southwest Florida and the Constitution. And that's why I'm in this race.
Great, thank you. What prompted you to run for office?
What prompted me was I have known many of the candidates for 5, 6 years. When I heard that Francis Rooney was not running again, I was very eager to see who was going to represent Southwest Florida, because we do have a history of broken promises. And, you know, to me, I cannot stand to have another person run for office based on certain promises and then break them and do the exact opposite of what the people that voted them in had asked them to do. So I waited and looked at all the candidates, and unfortunately, I felt that we were going down that same exact path. I'm not a politician. I never wanted to be a career politician or anything like that. This was a goal of, I have to protect Southwest Florida. I have to represent it. And since I'm a lifelong resident, I have lived the issues every day of my life. Not to mention, now that I'm a lawyer, it is quite easier for me to represent the Constitution and to fight for the Constitution. So I have a lot of ideas and a lot of plans to bring to Congress, and that's why I decided to run.
Thank you. What makes you qualified to represent the business community?
The business community. So I'm qualified because, one, I've worked very closely with them in the past, but other than that, it's just that when you focus on the Constitution and you ensure that the federal government does not overreach their enumerated powers, we are actually going to have a more free market and a free market system that is going to ensure that the business community prospers. So the Constitution is very, very clear in the enumerated powers. One thing that often gets used by leftists or by even some Republicans is that they try to claim that the Constitution is ambiguous. And when they do that, they use the Commerce Clause as an opportunity to overreach and control businesses and have more legislation that has more control over interstate commerce and intrastate commerce. So as a constitutionalist, my goal is to ensure that the federal government does not overreach so we can have that free market system.
Thank you. In your opinion, what's the most pressing issue facing the Southwest Florida business community? And if elected, what would you do to address this issue?
Well, I'll talk about the recent issue, which is the quarantine orders, the stay-at-home orders that have caused a lot of shutdowns. We saw, especially in Southwest Florida, since we are such a heavily based tourist community, and so many businesses, and I talked to a lot of them because I was advocating against the stay-at-home orders from the beginning. And I've been speaking to a lot of business owners, and many of them actually make all of their profit within that tourist season, which is, November to late April. So that said, when they lost March, when they lost April, they can't even break even for the following months. And that was highly concerning. So it's going back to that example of government overreach that has infringed upon businesses to be able to open and to function based on that free market system and based on the personal liberty choice of American citizens. It was extremely harmful, and government overreach is what we are now going to be facing more often than we've ever seen because of the precedent of the stay-at-home orders. So that's the pressing issues: government overreach and controlling our businesses through, an excuse of a pandemic or whatever it will be in the future.
You touched on it a little bit, but if you want to elaborate, Southwest Florida's economy obviously is heavily dependent on leisure and hospitality. So if elected, what would you do to encourage economic diversification in the region?
What I would do is, again, just prevent government overreach. This is, to me, I believe in states' rights and local home rule. So in Congress, what we've seen is there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape. So the more we legislate and the more we, try to encourage or try to help with the economy, we're actually setting precedent that if the shoe is on the other foot, they can also infringe or control and prevent that kind of commerce. So the goal is to prevent that legislation and to prevent that overreach. It's all based on the Constitution, that it's not an enumerated power, and we cannot control the state's rights and the internal business of the state.
So this group was formed in the wake of the 2018 water crisis, and water quality has and remains our #1 priority. So if elected, what specific projects would you advocate for to improve and protect Southwest Florida's water quality?
I love that question. Okay, so my first swim was actually at Loudermilk Beach. A very personal issue for me, just because these waters are so important for the quality of life, not only our economy. So we took a great hit with tourism because of our water quality, with the green algae bloom and blue-green algae bloom and the red tide. We also had health issues, respiratory issues. So what I've seen, and I was speaking to an expert last Monday, is that there's a lot of money going towards research. There's a lot of government spending going towards research for cleaning up the water, but there's not a lot of cleaning. There's not a lot of actual cleaning of the waters. So in Congress, my goal is to ensure that the money is no longer going to research. That's been going on for decades. We don't need to put money into more research because that's just another government spending ploy that, is just exactly how we get into this bureaucratic system with red tape, and that nothing ever gets done. So what we need to do is advocate for projects of actual cleaning, which is, we already have the research of how to clean up our waters, prevent pollution, and to ensure that the runoff of pesticides and septic tanks are not causing more issues with our water quality.
Thank you. So what specific actions do you think lawmakers should take to improve and protect Southwest Florida's waterways?
So like I just said, which is the cleaning. Instead of putting money into the research, we need to actually have systems that ensure that the flow of the water, especially with as much development as we have now that caused all of the runoff of pollution to go into our waters, causing the algae bloom, we need to reset the water flows from those developed areas to ensure they're not so concentrated and causing these blue-green algae blooms in the first place. So that's one situation. And then also there's been proposals of collecting water and having it reflow to a more natural recycling process, which is another solution. But I've been talking to some experts. I'm not the expert on exactly how to clean up the water. I'm not a scientist, but what I can do is ensure that the water is going towards actually cleaning as opposed to the research and going towards, never-ending projects that never get completed.
Thank you. So one last question. Is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your priorities?
Sure. So I am very, very conservative, as I'm sure you've noticed. I am probably the most conservative. I think I'm the most conservative person in this race. But that said, this is such an opportunity to have young people of Southwest Florida be more involved in the legislative process. I have spoken to, and I used to be the Young Republicans chairman for Collier County. I've spoken to many, many young people in my life, obviously, and the goal is to ensure that we are looking towards the future of our nation. Now, since this is a business-centric organization, we need to be looking towards the future of businesses in Southwest Florida as well. And the way we do that is we need to have a more energetic and innovative congressperson. We cannot have another congressperson who is going to hold a seat for 10, 15 years and not take any action. And we need to have somebody with a steel jaw, somebody who does not kowtow and does not get walked all over when it comes to Southwest Florida. We can't have somebody who's bought and bossed by special interests. They need to be someone who's sincere and they only answer to Southwest Florida. Now, I can make that promise because I'm a lifelong Southwest Florida resident, and that's the only reason why I jumped into this race. I made a pledge that I would not accept any money from PACs or lobbyists or special interests. And my promise is that Southwest Florida is my home and I will protect it. And I think you have noticed that I'm very energetic since I am the youngest person running for Congress in the nation, knowing how difficult that is. And I will always fight for Southwest Florida.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you for taking time to speak with us today, and we wish you luck in the election.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you all so much.